Welcome back to Media and More with the Mediocre Boddler. We're talking about Ahsoka, Episode 5, Shadow Warrior. You might want to sit down. As it opens up with them down on the planet trying to figure out what the heck actually happened. Where's Ahsoka? Where's Sabine? Hera comes off the ship and, she's sweeping the area and she hears something, and you come around the edge of this giant pillar and there's Huyang. And I'm already a David Tennant fan. I just really enjoy him as an actor, and putting him as Huyang, I think if he had been actually in it, it might have been a little bit distracting because everyone's like, hey, Doctor Who's in Star Wars, but him playing the droid and the way he's been playing, the snarkiness, it just works. And he's just been snarky up until this point. But, I mean, he's saying, he's holding Sabine's helmet and going, I told them to stay together. And they never listen. And you can see just the pain and the frustration that, because Huyang is old. He's seen a lot of Jedi death. And if they're gone, this is it for him. This is it. There are no more Jedi. They're done. So they're getting a lot. David Tennant is getting a lot. And no shade against the animators or whatever. They're doing a good job of portraying, it's just the only thing moving in his eyes, you get movement in his eyes, but that's just going great. But on the flip side of that, I'm not really happy with Chopper. On the animated series, he's a lot more animated. You can do so much more with him animated. And I think they're really trying the way his dome shakes in different ways and everything. But he just doesn't feel right. He feels like a remote control robot. There's not a whole lot of personality. And I guess there's not much you can really do with it, but it just he is the opposite of what we're getting from Huyang. It's just like, oh well, it is what it is. One of the other questions that this answers is, does Jacen Syndulla have any force powers? And we find out that he goes to the edge of the wall. He's like, Mom, there's something, I can hear something. And this is where it's a little bit weird because he has force powers and he can kind of hear what's going on. He can hear Ahsoka and Anakin fighting on the other side, but he has force powers. But you see Hera come up there and she closes her eyes and listens, and you get the impression that she can hear it too. So I don't know how that works. that doesn't make much sense to me. But we are talking about the Force, and the Force works in mysterious ways. But that begged the question to me that maybe Ahsoka's training the wrong Padawan. Maybe she should be training Jacen and not, and maybe we'll get there. But maybe she needs to be training Jacen and not Sabine, and Sabine just needs to go be Sabine. She needs to be the Mandalorian that she is. I do want to touch on one other thing. The colors that they chose are just way too subdued for Sabine, in my opinion. In the animated series, there are a lot of bright colors going on with her on the animated, and they've toned that down. Her helmet just seems just too dark to me. It just, all the tones were just too dark. So let's go to the world between worlds. You got Anakin fighting with Ahsoka, and it seemed to be going pretty well. You know, he's just like, I'm here to complete your training, and there again, we're back to a couple of callbacks. You know, he lights his light. You know, I'm here to complete your training. He pulls out his lightsaber, and she's like, I will not fight you. Well, I've heard that before. Okay, and they started fighting, and some of the moves he did, like the spinning the lightsaber behind his back, that, you know, that's kind of a callback to the Revenge of the Sith when he was fighting Obi-Wan, and I was okay with that. And she he does something, he does a move, and she does a spin kick on him, and so she's kind of feeling herself. She's just like, hey, you know, there's not much else you can teach me, you know. And he just kind of gives her that look, like, you know, it's that look of, I taught you all you know, but I didn't teach you all I know. And slices the deck, and she falls down. And this is where it just goes from great to oh my god, because she's falling through the call-out layers, and she lands on the ground, and you see clone troopers, you know, Series 1 clone troopers, those are the ones with the fins on their head, running by her. And here comes Anakin running out of the fog, lights his lightsaber, and just like, come on, what are you doing? He's just like, this is the Clone Wars. And he's like, yeah, let's go. What about my training? This is your training. So you feel like she's kind of in both, you know. She's kind of in that thing of maybe this actually did happen, but she knows where she was. And everyone, there's kind of an argument, well, is this actually Anakin, or is this a manifestation of her brain because of her being dead or whatever? And no, I mean, I've never felt that this was any kind of a manifestation. This is Anakin, period. And he's trying, you know, he asked her, live or die, you know. And so you go through that first battle, you know, they have the first battle, and the after battle action where you see her sitting with the clones, and she's just devastated, you know, just like, hey, this is my fault, I got these guys killed. Well, I was never okay with the fact that they put these kids who are, yeah, they have special abilities, they're Jedi, but they're 14, 15, 16-year-old kids, and you're making them generals commanding troops, you know. And that just never made too much sense. No matter how special their, you know, special abilities they are, there's still, a lot of these people are just kids. Making Ahsoka a general of an army, to me, is just as wrong as putting Anakin on the Jedi Council, you know, when he clearly wasn't ready to do that. She's, you know, she's trying to figure out her place in this, and she's like, I wasn't raised to kill. I mean, I'm not a killer. I'm not a fighter. And he's explaining to her that, and this makes sense, Obi-Wan trained Anakin to be a Jedi in the time of peace, but that changed. Now they're in war, so Anakin is teaching Ahsoka how to be a warrior. So then we get to the second planet in her memory, and it's the Siege of Mandalore, and she's just handing it out. I mean, just, she's there. She's just fluid in motion. She's taking out Mandalorians, and Anakin shows up and was like, I don't remember this battle. And he's like, well, we've separated. Separated by then, you know. Yeah, you don't remember this because you were Darth Vader at this point. But here's where we get into the meat and potatoes of the story, because Anakin is looking at around, and he's all proud papa. I'm like, I trained you to be a warrior. You're a pretty dang good one. And makes the comment about, you're part of a legacy. You've inherited the knowledge from me like I inherited it from my master and he from his. And but she's like, yeah, but my leg part of the legacy is just death and destruction. She makes the comment, you're more dangerous than anyone ever really expected. And if I'm your legacy, you know, does that mean that I'm going to become the next Darth Vader? I don't understand that line of thinking. I don't like that line of thinking. And kind of based on all that she's been through, if she was going to turn dark, she would have by now, in my opinion. But he tells her, we're starting over, back, and he live or die. But this time, when he turns around, when he lights his lightsaber, it's red, and he's the Darth Vader from Revenge of the Sith, before he's burned and everything, and he starts fighting her, and she's kind of struggling, but she's still the little kid, and then he kicks her and pushes her back into the world between worlds, and they're still fighting. They're going at it, and she disarms him. She has his lightsaber, and there's a moment. You can look into her eyes, and they turn yellow because she's angry. She's like, I don't want this for me, and it's like she's just like, and then she backs off. She turns off the lightsaber and she throws it down. And I choose to live. And then he backs off because his eyes are all Sith red and everything. And he backs off and he turns back into Jedi Anakin. No scars or anything. And he's like, there's a chance for you yet. At this point, I'm loving Hayden Christensen. He's just not. He brought it. I can safely say that I was not a 100% Anakin fan, Anakin Hayden Christensen fan up until now. But I am now. And even the callback of throwing the lightsaber down, that's kind of a callback to Luke throwing the lightsaber down in front of Darth Vader. But for whatever reason, in this scenario, the storytelling is just so good in this episode. It's like just a nice snug blanket and a gentle kiss to the Clone Wars and to the prequels. The really thing that got me excited, I actually did a armchair fist bump from the couch. We get to see Rex in live action, and I was just like, oh. I could almost watch that. I could almost watch a Rex and Ahsoka TV series, but we don't want to go backwards. We're doing fine going forward. Ahsoka gets rescued from the water, and she's out for a day. By the time she wakes up, they're like, what happened? Where's Sabine? She does her Jedi thing to figure out that Sabine went with them willingly at this point, but Ahsoka doesn't share that part with Hera. The fleet is showing up basically to drag them all back to Coruscant by their ears and saying, you ran off like you weren't supposed to and you're in trouble now. Ahsoka's got to figure out how to get through hyperspace, and Sabine and Hera's going to deal with the council. Hera's talking to Mon Mothma, and she's like, well, what are you doing? We need to figure out what's going on. The fleet is there to bring you guys back, and if you don't have proof that the Imperials are doing anything, and you don't have what's her name, then your command is probably going to get stripped. Which again, Hera's just like, I can just see her going like, fine, take it. You go right ahead. I was doing. I hate to state it, but I was looking for a job, but I found this one. But the thing that gets me is there's got to be consequences, because you left with 5 X-wings. Now you only have 3 X-wings. I thought there was a chance that maybe those other 2 X-wings pilots might have survived, because you saw, I guess you did see the one flying uncontrolled towards the planet. How do you explain that? You run off and do an unauthorized mission. You get 2 of your people killed. There's almost no way she can save her career at this point. I don't see it. But Ahsoka goes and communes with the whales, and she does a Jonah and the whale thing, I guess, and off they go into hyperspace. The interesting thing is, we get a new Ahsoka tunic. I when I first saw it, I was thinking Gandalf the White, or maybe the Knights Templar from Indiana Jones, and it just really does signify that she went from, she's no longer a Jedi Knight, she's a Jedi Master now. She went for the ultimate test and she passed it. So new mood, new attitude, new clothes. The upside, well, I'm working on a 3D model of Ahsoka, and I was trying to decide the color palette, and I think this might have changed or helped me decide what my color palette is going to be. I might go with the white now, the white and the gray, and the armor pieces are a silvery metallic. I'll have to work that out. But if of this series, this is definitely the best of the episodes. If someone were to want to watch one episode, this would be the one. I'd just like, watch that. And if you don't want to watch the rest, you're crazy. I kind of feel like I'm on the other side of this coin, where before I knew people who read this, like the Star Wars comics, and had all this other knowledge from novels or whatever that they read that I didn't read, and they were always like, "Oh, I recognize that from the story, but that's not the way it was in the comic." And I'm kind of getting that now, because a lot of this background information is stuff from Rebels, and I'm loving it, and it's just kind of weird to be on the other side of that, but not. I just want to make sure I'm not ever going to be snarky about it. Just like, well, if you had watched if you don't watch the animated stuff, a lot of the stuff that we're seeing is material that came from the animated series. And obviously it's good stuff. So you might want to give it a shot if you're not watching it. I mean, just don't dismiss it as it's kid stuff. A good story is a good story. But here we are. Ahsoka's gotten off to wherever they're going to, and Hera's gonna go back and face the consequence. The one thing I don't understand is they do have information. Ahsoka took scans of the hyperspace ring. They knew they were tracking the one gal or whatever. So it's not like they don't have any information. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work out, but I guess we're going to have to wait till episode 6 and find out. So until then, we'll see you next time.
Pew 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 pew.